Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Curry, and welcome to the second video in the Sacred Heart Center for Teaching and Learning series on how to help you guys with citations. So for those of you who joined us last time, we talked a lot about plagiarism and why it's important to cite your sources, but we didn't really go over how to do that. So without further ado, I would like to welcome everyone to our presentation on not only how to cite your sources, but an introduction to the most common citation format that you're going to see here at Sacred Heart, which is APA format. And please note at the time of this recording that we are currently in the, there we go. And please note at the time of this recording that we are currently in the 7th edition of APA. So for those of you who are familiar with MLA, APA actually shares a lot of similarities, but there are some key differences. So first, let's go over the basics of what an APA paper should look like. So already you'll notice that, again, like with MLA, APA requires that all text be double-spaced, 12-inch font, Times New Roman as the font, 1-inch margins, body paragraphs indented, stuff like that. But one key difference here is that APA requires you actually make a title page. So basically a page separate from the rest of your essay, rather than just putting your name at the top. And here is an example of how the title page looks. So as you can see, your name, class information, date, stuff like that, that basically will go at the bottom of the title page. But as you'll notice, the title itself is not only in the center of the page, it is also in bold. All right, let's move on to how APA tackles in citations. And again, like MLA, APA uses the same basic author date format. So put the author's last name, then you put the date of the source. Now, one key difference between APA and MLA is that when quoting directly from a source in APA, you must include the page number if available. So here you can see I've done an example, my last name, the year, and the page. Now, if you're paraphrasing, however, so again, if you're summarizing something from a source, you don't need to include the page number. APA also has something which is called narrative citations. So basically that will look like if you, let's say at the beginning of your sentence, you say, according to the author. So again, like with this example, according to Curry, blah, 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 blah. Now for the citation itself, you only need to include the page number because you already said the name of the author. And again, as you can see, when it comes to citations, APA has a lot of the same rules as MLA. So if it's one author, just the one author's last name. If it's two authors, include both of their last names. If it's 3 or more authors, you include the name of the first author listed alphabetically. And then you include et al., which again is very similar to MLA. Now, what's important to note for APA, though, is that if you're working with a source that has an unknown author or doesn't list the author. So for most internet articles, unfortunately, what you can do is either you can cite the title of the work. So as you can see, I cited basically the title of this presentation, or you can cite the organization that you're getting the article from. So let's say you get an article from, the American Medical Association. If you put American Medical Association in the citation, that's fine. And as far as the year is concerned, the year you're going to put is the year that you basically accessed it. So the current year we're in. All right, and here are some examples of in-text citations. So as you can see with the first one, that is basically a narrative citation. So list the author's name first and the year as well. And then when it comes to the citation itself, that goes all the way at the end of the sentence, but it's only the page number. And the second example, as you can see, that would be an example of like a basic citation. So again, something that APA shares a similarity with MLA. All right, let's move on to how APA tackles reference pages. And again, like with MLA, a lot of similarities, but one thing that makes APA stand out from a lot of other citation formats is if you have up to 20 authors in a single source, you basically have to list all of those authors. So for example, if you have, I don't know, 18 or 19 authors for one source, in the reference page, you have to list every single author's name. Now, for in-text citations, you obviously don't have to do that. You just have to include, first author et al. Now, if you have, let's say, 21 authors, or I don't know, 30 authors, just crazy amount of authors, for that, you don't have to list all of them. So if you have over 20, it would just be something like, I don't know, Curry et al. And again, like with MLA, APA italicizes the titles of what are called longer works. So again, this is books, collections, journals, newspapers, sources like that. But when it comes to what are called shorter works, so that's basically articles in a journal, articles online, or even chapters of a book, those do not get italicized. In fact, you don't even put quotation marks around them. And if this is available for APA, you would include the DOI of a particular source. So that's the digital object identifier. And here is basically an example of the references page. So as you can see, all the authors are listed alphabetically. The first line, every line after the first line of each source is indented. And a couple of these even have examples of DOIs. Now, when it comes to DOIs, you guys don't have to worry about, trying to find them. If they have a DOI, they will list them. So if they don't have a DOI, don't worry about it. All right, so in the time remaining that we have, I'd like to play a little game with you guys called Is It Properly Cited? So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of citations, and we're going to guess, is it properly cited? Is it not cited? And, are there things we can improve about it? All right, so here is the first example, and I'm going to give you guys about 5 seconds, and then we'll regroup. All right, so for those of you who said, no, this is not properly cited, you're correct. And the main reason is because, as you can tell, this is a direct quotation from a source, but it does not have a page number. And also I'd like to note that all of this information in the citation, like, the title of the work, the publisher, things like that, that's not necessary for APA. This is actually an example of an MLA citation. But the correct citation for APA would basically look like this. Author's last name, the year of publication, and the page number. All right, here is the second example. Okay, so once again, for those of you who said, no, this is not cited properly, again, you're correct. Because this is an example of something that would be paraphrased or summarized, but again, it's not being cited. So kind of as a reminder from the last presentation, even information that you're not directly quoting from needs to be cited. And here is basically what the citation for that would look like. So again, no page number, just the author's last name and the year. And here is the third and final example. All right, so for this one, for those of you who said, yes, this is properly cited, technically speaking, you're correct. But this is actually an example of what we were talking about last time when it comes to common knowledge. So kind of just to repeat, something like a date for something would be considered common knowledge, especially in the United States. So everyone here in the United States knows that the Declaration was signed on July 4th, 1776. Now, if you find information contrary to this, so if you find out that, I don't know, the Declaration of Independence was signed actually on July 3rd, that you would have to cite because you are basically refuting what is considered common knowledge, and you would need a source for that. All right, so before we conclude, I would like to once again give you guys some helpful resources. And for those of you who are familiar with EasyBib, while EasyBib is a great resource for organizing your citations, one thing that you'll notice when it comes to APA citations is you have to actually pay for EasyBib in order to make it cite APA, which stinks. But the first three resources that I've included here are basically citation machines that are, as of now, still free. So again, you do not need to pay for their subscription in order to cite APA. You can just do that for free. Now, the fourth resource on here is something called Zotero. And the great thing about Zotero is that, again, as students of Sacred Heart, you have access to it for free. But the nice thing about Zotero is not only does it help you properly cite your sources, it can actually help you organize them. So one thing that Zotero will do, which a lot of these other citation machines won't do, is, let's say you put in all of your sources and everything. When Zotero is done doing that, it will actually organize them and put them in alphabetical order instead of you, having to do that after you've done it for these other three. And if you guys have any further questions about APA or frankly any other citation format, always consult Purdue University's online writing lab. This is basically the authoritative source when it comes to all of these. And finally, for those of you, again, who saw our last presentation, you noticed that I purposely did not cite my sources. Again, was kind of to reinforce why plagiarism is important. But for this, as you can see, I have cited my sources. So here's what they look like. All right, I hope I provided all of you with some helpful information, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video that we will be doing. So stay tuned.